Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry.
Hey, docs, welcome to another episode. Today I've got Darcy Sullivan, our resident SEO specialist. You know she's probably been on our podcast quite a few times. It's great to have someone that can pop on 3 or 4 times a year to give us all things search/Google updates. In this episode, we talk about 4 real key things. One is it's not Google My Business anymore. It's called something else, which you'll find out. And then you have to access it a little bit differently. You can't access it like you did before. So that's important. There's a big update coming up next year, but you got to start preparing for it now. So we dive into that. You know, we talk about the difference between Google Insights and Google Analytics. That's a big thing. And we dive into actually optimizing your Google profile and making sure that that is acting, in your behalf. Frankly, it's like a second website, and it's an amazing generator of new patients when you do it right. And so we dive into some strategies. And then also some updates. There's algorithm changes that happen. That's kind of the 4th thing we talked about. And for some of you, it benefited you, and for some, it didn't. In our practice, I feel like because we had been doing the right things, we had a really big bump in June in search results. So this episode is going to really help kind of reset you on where you need to be for your Google search. And I highly recommend checking this out. There's a great resource at the end. And, I get it. It can be tricky to compete on Google, and you might feel overwhelmed with the technology side of that. And that's something we talk about in this episode as well. So here is my interview with Darcy Sullivan. Before we get to the episode, I want to tell you about my friend and colleague, Dr. Holly Tucker of ChiroNumbers.com. Have you been in practice a few years now and you're wondering when your business will start to reward you financially? Are you so overwhelmed with the day-to-day business management that it is hard to see your success? Or are you trying to expand your team and worried about the impact to the bottom line? Dr. Holly is a certified profit-first professional and a chiropractor herself, who has managed multiple practices over the past 10 years and consults specifically on implementing the cash flow system of Profit First for chiropractors. Simplify the way you look at stats, metrics, and your own compensation through this methodology by working with someone with unique experience in your business model. Visit bit.ly/chironumbers to get your guide and video training. Download the first 2 chapters of Profit First and subscribe to her weekly 5-minute Friday series on profitability. Start to feel less overwhelmed, avoid burnout, and clean up your finances so you can focus on patient care. Again, that's bit.ly/chironumbers for access to Dr. Holly's resources. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast. All right. Welcome to the show, Darcy. It's always nice to have you on a few times a year to give us our everything search kind of updates. And we've got a good one today to update everyone. On one of my recent podcasts, I talked about the flywheel concept as far as scaling. And to me, search has one of those things for my practice that's really allowed that flywheel momentum to go and just generate a lot of new patients for us without a lot of effort. And so it's always good to keep up with this stuff and to make sure that your practice is doing so. So welcome to the show again today, and I'm looking forward to some of our updates.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be back again.
Yeah. And it's, it seems like we got a whole lot of new things going on with search. Obviously, when we say search, it's kind of like toilet paper and Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
Search in Google. So tell us about now, everybody, I'll probably still be calling it Google My Business for another couple of years, but it's got a little bit of a name change. So dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Google My Business has changed its name and a couple of features to your Google business profile listing. And again, this is what controls, your Google Maps, listing your information that's shown on what we call the knowledge panel when someone searches for your business. So I think people are pretty much, if they're listening, either have one set up or they had one set up at one time, or they know what's important. They just don't necessarily know how to maybe optimize it properly.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into that a little bit too. I've always said, and it could be a wrong analogy, but it's like having a second website, really, in a lot of ways. And so many people leave a lot on the table as far as their Google business profile, as it's called now. So just to recap that, it has gone from Google My Business to Google Business Profile, right?
Yes. So it's your, it is your listing there. Now, one thing that I've realized, especially this week, it's come up with a couple different chiropractors that I've spoken to, is that they didn't realize the name change, but they also didn't realize that they no longer were going to have access to the app, which is how they were originally using and updating information and replying to comments, etc. But that app is unfortunately going away. So now you want to make sure if you are going in and updating or responding to reviews, that you're going in through either search or through the maps. And really the maps is the best way to respond to some of those reviews.
Okay. Yeah. And I know I get emails when someone leaves a review. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but you could set it up to where you get the email and click on that and it kind of lets you respond through the desktop, right?
Absolutely. It's a really good idea to set up those auto responses so that you do get those alerts coming in to let you know what's going on and you can be prompt with your response.
Okay, so accessing it through search or maps, and there's no more app. You can obviously do that from your phone, or you can do that from your desktop or laptop. So that's good. Now, obviously, we've talked about the name change, but there's a few other changes that are happening in addition to no more app and things like that. So, what are some of those?
Yeah, so we've seen a shift. Now you're able, through your insights, which is the analytics that's associated with your Google business profile. This is very different than your Google Analytics. You're now able to access information from 6 months instead of previously you only had a quarter or 3 months worth of information. Other things now, reviews, you're going to see like keywords bold. So we always talk about keywords in SEO, and obviously, if somebody's coming to see you, hopefully they're using keyword phrases in their reviews like chiropractor or chiropractic or back pain, something relating to either the problem or solution associated. And you'll see those bold, which is nice because the whole concept of the bold is people's eyes are drawn to it. So it helps you stand out a little bit more. And then also the marker, if it's a new review or a newer review, you'll see an indication of that. And then I do know that as things are starting to progress, that the spam filters within Google are getting heightened when it comes to reviews. So I know some people are having some issues with some of the reviews not displaying as they feel they should.
Yeah, what are you seeing with that? Because I've been hearing some chatter on that as well. What's happening there? People losing reviews, or what's going on?
Yeah, so there's a number of things there, and it's at times you can say they're all directly correlated to one thing. If you've recently moved, or if your listing is brand new, or if it's not optimized, those could be overall umbrella issues, but usually it's on a per review basis. It could be that Jan left a review while she was still at your location at the same 2 hours before Tom left a review at your location. Or James didn't really leave a review. He just told you he left a review, or somebody used improper grammar and it didn't, Google was like, oh, this isn't a real post. Or somebody else said, oh, it was a family-like environment, and they flagged it because they thought it wasn't really chiropractic related because they just caught the word family. So there's tons of reasons why this can happen, but basically it kind of boils down to more aggressive filters. So you want to make sure you're not going after reviews in bulk all at once.
Yep.
And that you're kind of spreading them out as well.
Yeah, that's something I've seen a lot where people try to go for a bulk of 20 and get all their friends and family to do it at the same time, and it's obviously not gonna fly with Google now. So you mentioned something that insights is different than Google Analytics. Can you? I don't want to dive too deep into it, but what is the difference essentially?
So we want to think of your website separate from your Google business listing
Yep.
profile. And the insights that you're getting with your Google business profile listing are directly related to that, versus Google Analytics is geared towards the data of who's coming to your website, how many people, what pages are they visiting on your website. So it can be very confusing, especially when you get an email from Google and you're like, oh, well, it's an email from Google and it shows me this information. So it can easily be misinterpreted.
That makes sense. I'm glad we cleared that up. Just wanted to get that out of the way because we're going to kind of roll into Google Analytics 4 is replacing Universal Analytics, which is probably a whole other language for most people. But can you distill that down for us?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think people get very alarmed when they go to log into their Google Analytics and they see the little notice, Universal Analytics is going away, switch to Google Analytics 4, GA4.
Yeah.
Right now, some people, when they look at Universal Analytics, feel like they're drinking water from a fire hose, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So my fear is that some people, finally are getting a little used to the Universal Analytics, and now Google's like, hey, we're switching things. So, I put together a guide, which you can find at propelyourcompany.com/MCM-Google, that'll talk about, the Google business profile, the reviews, the Google Analytics 4, and setting that up if you already have Universal Analytics, or if that's all new to you, along with some other SEO items. But, because of the new privacy issues, Google's being forced to make some changes in the way that it shows information, what it gathers. And, the advantage, though, is that as we're seeing new features roll out with the Google Analytics 4, you're going to be able to learn more insights from your customers, like the customer journey. Right now, I think, you look at something and you're like, this is an SEO lead, this is a social media lead, this is a paid lead. But this is going to help you kind of connect the dots so you have a clearer understanding of the full process that somebody goes through before they book an appointment with you.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast a month or so ago. I forget what it was, and they just were diving in a little bit. And the guy got like super analytical on why Google has had to do this. And it's not like an overnight thing. It's definitely been a very long work in progress, but it made sense what he said. And it is going to have a lot of benefits. There's always, a little bit of struggles here and there, kind of like as chiropractors listening when we had to go from ICD-9 coding to ICD-10, which is just your diagnostic, coding stuff. It was like, oh my God, but it works out. It'll be fine. When is the deadline for this changeover?
Right. So next summer is the big date. But what we want to start doing is, so we've got, a little under a year here to prepare. You're still going to be able to use Universal Analytics until July 1st, 2023. But what we want to do is, if you've already got Universal Analytics set up, we want to run Google Analytics 4 with it so that you're able to go ahead and start to get used to, okay, on this screen, I would see this information like this. Okay, this is how it's displayed now. There's a chance things might not exactly line up. One might say, hey, you had 27 visitors. The other one might say you had 25. So you kind of want to go ahead and just get used to this and know that there's going to be small differences. And again, in that guide that I mentioned, we've got a link that has a video that'll walk you through exactly how to set that up, because it's a little daunting to talk through that on a podcast.
Yeah, we don't want to go in the weeds of that. I put it in the who not how category. A strategic coach concept is that if my chiropractors that are listening, it's like find the person to do it for you. You may have someone already that's doing your Google, your ads, your whatever it is. Maybe ask them, but then obviously Darcy, something that you're doing for our practice here. So that's been nice to be able to just say, hey, get this done. I don't want to know what it looks like or anything like that, but just get it done, right?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly.
So there'll be some benefits. It won't be as bad, but again, unless you are really bootstrapping it and you've got plenty of time on your hands and you have some tech savvy, I would probably outsource that. All right, docs, here is a new opportunity for you from Darcy Sullivan of Propel. She is our SEO specialist in helping out many chiropractors with their search engine optimization and making sure Google is finding you and getting you new patients. It's amazing how many new patients chiropractors can get and are getting when they do the SEO right and a few other things. And Darcy is offering a free SEO workshop just for chiropractors, and you can sign up for that at bit.ly/propelmcm. That is bit.ly/propelmcm, modern chiropractic marketing, right? And so check out that link, and we're going to have you go over 5 SEO secrets to owning the first page of Google without buying ads. And Darcy's going to give that free workshop, 1 hour, to really help grow your practice and start churning new patients from the ever mighty Google, which is still king in the online marketing. So check that out at bit.ly/propelmcm for the 1 hour free workshop. Hey, Doc, are you moving office spaces, or you're a startup with your own new space, or you're like me where you need renovations because it's starting to look a little worn after about 10 years like ours is? Crossfield's Chiropractic Office Design is here to elevate you wherever you're at, and they're going to help maximize your space and flow. They're going to really help attract and retain patients, and this is going to have a great ROI on your investment when you increase that patient experience. So check out Chiropractic Office Designs by Crossfields, and we have a special link for modern chiropractic marketing listeners, and that is www.chiropracticofficedesign.com/Kevin-Christie. And with that, you're going to have discounts. We're going to have direct links to a mega bundle of free resources, and you can check them out, and you can get 15 of our most popular floor plans, 5-phase checklist for a startup office, 5-point designer checklist to evaluate your current office image. And there's 30% off on all online products when you go to www.chiropracticofficedesign.com/Kevin-Christie. So, all right. So Google Analytics 4 is replacing Universal Analytics. That will be important to do it. Do it before July of next year, but you do have until July of 2023 to get that done. So, okay, cool. What are some other recent Google algorithm updates? I know everybody's always asking that, and it always seems like it's, it's just random and it's just, the problem is too, is like a lot of my clients will notice it could just be a random dip in new patients from Google in a month. And the first thing is like, did Google change your algorithm? I was like, I don't know. Let me ask Darcy.
Yeah.
What do we got?
So in May, there was a core update, but, we've seen other things as well. And in fact, we're recording this on July 19th. There was some indexing and issues that were July 15th and July 16th. So, one thing to consider is Google's always looking to supply the user with the best information based on the user's search query. So mainly what we saw is with the core update, at least, luckily your industry wasn't as affected as much as others were, but we saw, a 10% swing. If it was somebody who was a chiropractic group that was continually putting forth great quality content, we saw them moving up in positions. We saw them getting more organic website traffic versus those that, had some of the like staler content, hadn't touched their websites in years, or were using generic canned content. We saw them, take a little bit of a dive. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to say when you're like, okay, well, this happened directly during this period. But at the same time, if you look at it, well, a couple weeks prior, you had holidays, Easter, other things, spring break, things that also affect your business. So I think the last podcast that we did together really dove into looking through the analytics and identifying the problems, and when you can see, okay, was it because it was a holiday that it took a dip, or was it because there was, an update and my content didn't align with my target audience and I should change gears and put together different content?
Yeah. We actually had a really good June for our organic search, which was nice. We did good on our paid ads as well, but our organic search was really strong. So I think a lot of things are coming together for us on that, which was nice.
Yeah, and that would have been a direct correlation from when that May core update finished, and because of the fact that you guys are putting together quality, fresh content that aligns with your target audience.
Yeah. And we've also, we've done a lot of the condition reports and we put the YouTube videos into there. So I think that definitely helped take hold on that. We're going to be switching gears a little bit to making our services a little more robust. I know that's something that you teach a lot.
Good.
And then we've been refurbishing some old blogs as well and getting that up there. So we're still at it strong. And as part of that flywheel that I mentioned earlier, is like, it's really become a good flywheel for us. And I've always said, we're at a network with insurances and stuff. If we were an in-network provider, which a lot of my audience is, I mean, we'd probably double or triple our Google new patients, because the reality of it is a lot of them will find us and then they'll check their insurance plan or call our office. And first thing they're asking is if we're in network. And so if we were, then they probably would have been a new patient, but I'm okay with that because I know my margin is strong. So good. All right. We've got some algorithm updates. If you're doing all the right things from a content play that you talk about, and obviously in your resources you have, then it was benefiting folks, which I know it was us. So that was really cool. And so you said there's a kind of major organic traffic shifts or position drops that you saw happening.
Yeah. And that was specific to position drops if people were, hadn't touched their website in a year or so, or if they were just pushing out canned content, that stuff kind of got dinged.
Yeah. And it's just that overarching thing that you always teach is that, Google is trying to direct their people, their audience to the best resources. And so do that even as a local business, like, you're not going to out content the Mayo Clinic, right? Or the Cleveland Clinic. I know they got some.
You'd be surprised. We've worked with chiropractors that we've helped them do that with their specific niches.
And locally, that's what I was going to say, is like, you're not going to out content them, right? Where like they're going to produce more content. But when people are searching locally and you're doing more of a niche thing that's specific, you can actually come up and that type of stuff. Because I get people ask, I was like, oh, how am I going to compete with WebMD and all those things? Like, it's a different end game. And people, if people are searching for things and they're a mile from your office and they're searching for a particular thing, there's going to be a lot of benefits in that. So that's good.
Yeah.
Which takes me to the kind of final topic is really optimizing the Google business profile and doing an audit of that. You did an audit of us. We're kind of, I'm actually, and I've talked about this in the podcast, we're renovating our office. And I bring that up because we're going to take a slew of new like our pictures need to be updated, and I knew that about, 6 to 12 months ago, but I also knew I was going to renovate the office, and I didn't want to hire a photographer and do all that until I did it. But we're going to refresh our pictures. We're going to get some video tour stuff going on in there. And then obviously all the other essentials that's there on Google My Business. You've been helping us and our clients. We've been slowly cherry picking some of our clients and doing an audit of their Google business profile, and you did it for our practice and gave us a really nice report, and it kind of was listing out the areas that were strong or maybe weak and stuff like that. So talk about some of the, kind of 30,000 foot overview things you're looking at in these audits that you're doing.
Yeah. So, overall with SEO, we really kind of want to hone in on the keywords and the content. So we want to make sure that we're using the keywords that people are searching for. So when you're filling out the About Us section, when you're filling out like all of the key points that your listing asks you to fill out, you want to make sure that you're taking up the space to do that. So if it asks you for services, that you're not just listing chiropractic as the service, that then in the description you're describing it, that your address matches the address on your website, that your image, and ideally you want your main image, if you can, to have your logo for recognition. If somebody is standing directly outside your competition's office and doing a search for chiropractor near me, that chiropractor is going to show up above you. But what you can do is you can really optimize your listing so that you're standing out more than them. So that's through this testimonials. And I know that you can't guide people into what to say in your testimonials, but you can, if they are saying phrases like chiropractor and back pain, those are going to get picked up and be better signals, along with the Q&A section. If nobody's asked any questions, you can start to ask questions like, how long, what's the first session like? How, what services do you offer? And you can then answer those. You don't have to wait for somebody to ask those. So really you want to fully go through all of the listing. And I know everybody's like, oh, it doesn't say 100%, because, it tells you like how far you are. You want to fill everything out to the best of your ability, really maximizing that and adding attributes. Like some chiropractors are missing the opportunity of adding the attributes that they're wheelchair accessible. Or that, all of those elements where if I had just been in a car accident, I would want to make sure I could easily get into your office.
Yeah.
So
another one I like, and again, it doesn't pertain to me too much, but you used to be in network with, let's just call it Aetna. It listed other plans I was in network with right on the Google business profile. So if you're an in-network provider, put that on there. I mean, that's a big selling point.
Absolutely. And the ability to book an appointment, if you have your appointment link, that's also something that you want to include in there. And then frequently posting to your listing so that it's fresh and that it's relevant, and preferably that those posts have a call to action, driving either traffic to your website or calling somebody to, suggesting to somebody that they book an appointment.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. And so you got a nice little, you've already mentioned it once, but I'll give another opportunity to mention that. It's got some information on tracking with analytics, website SEO, Google business profile. Where can they find that resource?
Sure. They can go to propelyourcompany.com/MCM-Google, and that'll be a chiropractor's playbook to getting more patients from Google without spending money on ads.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for the time again to give us the updates. I know we'll have you on again when the algorithm changes, or we get to Google Analytics 5, or they change the name to Google something else profile, right?
Yeah.
But all right, great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and just give us the updates, because we need it. And again, for my audience, find the who to do this kind of stuff for you, because otherwise you're going to get in the weeds.
Thanks again.
That is it for this week's episode. But before you leave, check us out at www.modernchiropracticmarketing.com for all kinds of free resources, such as blogs and the podcast episodes. We've got online courses. You can check out the Chiropractic Success Academy there, which is an amazing online coaching system for you at a very affordable monthly rate. There's a free online course on the modernchiropracticmarketing.com website, so check that out. If you're interested in some one-on-one coaching, we can do that as well. We have all kinds of resources for you there, and we would also truly appreciate if you could rate and review this podcast if you're getting valuable information out of it. I can't thank you enough, and we'll see you next week.